Okay, so this is a bit of a quick unplanned video in response to the BBC programme that was on last night about whether we should eat less meat, or more to the point, the BBC thinks we should eat less meat. I confess I didn't watch it all because realistically I just got fed up with it. The reality was I felt it was a very biased portrayal of farming and the meat industry, making it all seem like it was a horrendous thing for the planet and a really bad thing for people to consume. What they primarily focused on was the really sort of American way of producing beef, in the fact that it's intensive feedlots, using a lot of soya. And to be fair, they were right in some of the respects. That is a monoculture producing the crops, and it does do a massive amount of harm to the Amazon. However, not all beef or meat farming is like that. The reality is, if you buy British beef, it's going to more than likely be grass fed. If it is fed some sort of concentrate, which is a sort of protein feed, it's probably going to be from wheat, which with a wheat base. It's not going to be full of soya. They're not on intensive feedlots. It's very different from the American system. They continually went on about the monoculture of the growing some of this feed for cattle. The reality is, if you're growing any crop, it's likely to be a monoculture. If you're growing, say, wheat for bread, the chances are it's in a big field. It's purely wheat. There isn't a lot of other plants there. So that won't change whether that wheat plant or the soya plant is grown for beef, or whether animal feed, or whether it's grown for a human consumption. Now, you can address that in another way. Maybe you're going to go to organics and you can get some more wildflowers in it and things like that. But the reality is that crop will be probably a monoculture, whether it's for animals or for humans. The other thing they focused on was, about eating less meat. Now, I think you can eat less meat. There's no doubt about that. We don't need to have meat in all of us to have a lot of meat in our diet. But that's a personal choice, and I think to tell people how they choose to eat is not really necessarily the right thing to do. The personal choice is yours. If you're going to make that choice, then maybe it's better to choose something. Certainly in this country, choose a UK-produced piece of meat that has got a high welfare standard, probably British Farm Assured. If you can find the little red tractor logo on it, it will be up to a quality standard. It won't be pumped full of antibiotics like possibly from another country with different welfare standards. You are also supporting the countryside around you, because the difference is between the focus on that programme last night, which was very much feedlots in America, is that the UK grass-fed animal, whether it's lamb or beef, is going to be grown in a kind of sustainable environment with trees and hedgerows and things like that. Personally, I've got a lot of animals out in the field in the summertime. They're not out in the winter because it's too wet and horrible. I grow a hay meadow which is full of wildflowers. In fact, I put a wildflower seed mix out there a few years ago to improve the biodiversity on it. Fantastic for butterflies and things like that. If you look in there in midsummer, I can see things like meadow brown butterfly. I can see flowers like the common knapweed and stuff. Now, the reality is, you get rid of those cows and you start thinking about eating plant-based material, you're not going to eat grass. Anyone who's tried eating grass will know it's not the best diet. So I can only assume that by getting rid of meat animals or meat producing animals, you're going to have to plough these fields up, firstly releasing a lot of carbon, but also getting rid of these habitats that have developed over years that sort of mix well with animal production. That hay meadow is fantastic. I love being out there, and I love being out there with my kids, walking through that and seeing the biodiversity in there. You don't get that if you plough that up to grow some peas. The other factor is they were kind of talking about the inefficiency of growing crops for animals. Now, again, if you're doing a grass-based system like you do in the UK, the chances are, it's quite often you find that the type of production of crops or animals is zoned according to the rainfall or the soil types and things like that. You cannot get a combine up a Welsh hill or Welsh mountain. You can get a sheep up there and have a lovely bit of lamb off it, but you can talk about it being not efficient. But the thing is, if you want to try and get a combine up there, then good luck to you. Secondly, for instance, the soil types. Now, for starters, if you try growing potatoes in clay, good luck to getting the clay off those potatoes. Likewise, some parts of the, say, for example, the Peak District, if you go up there and start putting a plough in the ground, all you're going to hit is rock. Now, you cannot plant a good crop in a very shallow soil, but the reality is you can get a lovely grazing pasture, again, with the wildflower mix and the benefit for wildlife like that. You can graze that with an animal. So talking about inefficiency of animal meat production is kind of a very biased way of looking at it, I think. And, well, more than anything, doesn't give you the full facts. Now, I'm not sat here with loads of figures going, this is so many billion people here and you can get 10% of this from carbon from that. But I know as a practical farming that arable and livestock farming mix very well together. Not just because you need the poo to grow the crops, but because it works well with your farming pattern and your soil. So this whole thing about eat less meat, it's not just a thing about reducing your carbon footprint. You've got to think about the impact on the soil, the manures. If you don't use animal manure on your crops, you're going to have to buy in some sort of artificial fertilizer to get a decent yield. That's probably oil produced, used with oil to produce that. It's going to have an impact at carbon somewhere. So I was very disappointed by that program. The fact that I felt it was very misleading, and it was almost like pro-vegan. And it is disheartening when I love the BBC, to be honest, but I felt that wasn't a good balanced program. I felt that you need to have a balance. The balance wasn't there. That's why I've responded with this video today. Like a lot of farmers, I'm annoyed and disappointed by that program. There's a load of people on Facebook out there doing videos, and farmers doing videos on YouTube and things just to counteract the negativity, and it has been sickening. I felt myself, and I know plenty of other farmers have felt under a lot of pressure, because it does seem like there's constant attacks on the farming industry, notably the meat and dairy industry. I think you see me, we're not all bad guys, we're just trying to do a job. Plenty of people out there do like what we produce, and I'm heartened that we do get a positive response from a lot of people. But to watch a programme on the BBC which was plainly biased against agriculture or agriculture produces meat last night just prompted me to respond and give you this video. Personally, I'd like to see what you think and what you thought, if you watched that programme, what you felt about it. Leave a message below here. My message to you is to think about what you buy if you're looking at products. I've got a little old shirt on here, or jumper on here. It's funny, it's back to front because I'm filming on my phone and it does a back to front thing. Dairy Farmers of Britain. I'm a Dairy Farmer Britain. This is an old company. I'm no longer with them, sadly. They went bust because there wasn't enough money in it. But we need your support. We need you to support British farming. We need to not look at things objectively. Do your own research. Don't take it all off of one programme that tells you we're all bad or meat's all bad, because it's not. And I thank you as the public. I thank you as the public for your support on British farming. God, I'm a bit of a blubber. Get a lot of positivity and feedback from people, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart for watching, supporting us, all the people. Right, I'm going to go. I'm just a bit sad about that programme, really. Okay, cheers. Funky Farmer out. And my wife's washing behind. She's not going to be happy about that. I've left. That's her dress for graduation day at university, because she's going to, I think, the graduation day at Bristol University a couple of weeks' time. But that's beside the point. Sorry about that. Good job her pants aren't there. Good job my pants aren't there. Keep watching. Support your British farming. And all the best to you. Have a good life, a good steak.